we are like the thermostat in the house. We set the temperature of the house. So if we can be emotionally and mentally in tune with our worth, with who we are, what we're creating in this lifetime and giving birth to and cultivating, if we can start our days like that, the dynamics of the home will shift because we are the influencers in our home. And so I think the biggest thing does come back to you and being connected and grounded in yourself, taking that time to pray in the morning, make a plan, be a delegator, speak up. And you are the orchestrator of your space and the environment. And you do whatever you can to make that space a space for you to thrive and for everyone to thrive. And it does change the dynamics.
Welcome to the Family Dialogues podcast. In a time when women are asked to excel as mothers, wives, and entrepreneurs, how can we balance these callings without losing who we truly are? Today, we'll uncover how faith, strategy, and self awareness can help modern women lead flourishing businesses, nourishing their marriages, and also raising their children, all while staying anchored in their true identity. To help us with this conversation, we're speaking with Cherene Francis. She's a mission driven creator, filmmaker, and established multimedia communication expert. Her goal is to move people through education and entertainment, excelling as an actor, producer, writer, and a director for film, TV, and digital media. She crafts powerful messages and transforms visions into reality, ensuring audiences are deeply engaged and inspired. Cherene, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Taniesha. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
I've known Cherene for a number of years, almost getting closer to 10 years. I was in the academics environment, and as a researcher in parent-child relationships, I really wanted to move into the parent coaching business environment. And boy, I did not know anything about how to transition from the academic life to business. And I found Cherene, and you were my business coach for a couple of months. You helped me to craft my message and everything about branding and equipment and everything that I never even considered was important. You helped me to get all of those together. And so it's such a delight to speak to you today, because I'm sure mothers who are listening who might be thinking of transitioning into entrepreneurship as well could learn a lot from you.
Yes, yeah, I remember, I think it is about 10 years. And yeah, it's such a pleasure to see you today, really doing work that I think is so fulfilling to yourself, because I know how much you have a heart for mothers and parents. I feel honored to be able to be one of your first guests.
You really helped me to get rid of that shyness. I was nervous about speaking up about my skills and my vision, and you basically said it's in this box, and if I don't share it with the world, they are not going to get the opportunity to see the skills and what I have to offer to the world, and that would be a loss to them. And you kind
Hmm.
of helped me to come out of my shell, because I was like, I don't like social media, I don't want all this attention. But you were
Yeah.
saying it was so necessary to get going. So obviously, for me to be speaking on a podcast and being so open, you contributed to dragging me out of that very shy shell.
Yeah, sometimes we do get stuck in our head about what are we gonna say, or how is this gonna be taken by the audiences and people online. And there's so much fear around like us, but yes, the greater impact, I think if you shift focus, it really mobilizes you. So yeah, I'm so glad.
Yeah. For this conversation, it's about maintaining your true identity as a mother, wife, and entrepreneur, if that's what you want to get into. A lot of things have been happening in this world. I mean, not just in Canada, where you are, or for me in Germany. Everything just seems so unpredictable right now. And I'm sure there are many women wondering if they're going to experience layoffs, or even if they feel secure in their jobs, they might be thinking, I really don't like the quality of the school system, or I think my children are not getting enough of my attention, maybe I need to consider working from home, and that might include doing my own kind of business thing. So, as a business coach, what do you see in the landscape now that you could share with mothers who might be thinking of venturing out into entrepreneurship?
I think more than ever, the possibilities for people venturing out into entrepreneurship are here. When it comes to reaching people, business is all about people and the tools to reach them at such a very small cost. Social media is free. Connecting with people, even live in person, you could do that by going online. So with just internet and a laptop, not even a laptop, internet and a cell phone, it's very easy for people to find people that need a service and a product. And so more than ever, it is more accessible, but more than ever, because it's so accessible, we do have an influx of people online and a lot of distractions. There are gonna be skill sets that, a mom that's a new mom that's becoming an entrepreneur is going to need to take or learn in order to have some success, but we have a lot more control than we think, and a lot of it starts with mindset. I am a very faith-driven person, so mindset and guidance along the way. So I pray and make sure that I'm doing the personal development so that I can really shift to being in control of my situation versus being at effect. So being at effect means blaming the economy, blaming situation, blaming it's what can I do? And truly understanding your identity as someone that can be empowered. That's really the first step.
Mm. And after you make the mindset shift and be empowered, for people who are like me, where I was a couple years ago, what advice would you give to make the next step? I don't know if you go immediately to finding out what the avatar of their target people are or what the problem is, and then find the avatar. How would you get mothers to start making that shift so the mindset is there,
Yeah, so
but
mindset is definitely the first step, and it's not like a one-time thing. This is something that is now a lifestyle. Getting up, make sure you have your time to yourself. So that might mean waking up before your children are up. My kids are a little bit older, so when they're off to school, I have my alone time. But yes, mindset every day, every single day. Then after, it's taking account of your skill sets and your passions and what comes natural to you. So what are you good at? And just really brainstorming, look from the time you were a child to now and what were things that have interested you, skills that you have, whether they're soft skills like organization or it could be cleaning, it could be reading, it could be writing, it could be organizing, it could be anything, whatever. It could be artistic. Take just don't judge anything and put it down on one paper. And then I would start to brainstorm. Well, now we have ChatGPT. So
yeah.
that exercise I would do on paper. But yeah, you could easily get AI and say, hey, these are my skills. I'm looking to start a home-based business. Brainstorm with me some ideas on businesses that I can run. You can even do things like put in the area that you're in. So I'm based in Toronto, Ontario. These are my skill sets, my passions. I want to start a home-based business around my family schedule as a stay-at-home mom. What are some suggestions? And ChatGPT is definitely going to pump out some ideas, right? So that's what I mean by it's so much more easier. You know, Dr. Tanisha, when we started, we did not have AI.
Yes, we had to brainstorm
We had
everything
to use our own
for
brain
right, for a
and really
while.
work through. But really, you can get a business idea in a minute. So for me, no matter what, it's still going to come back to mindset because, now Once you have the answers are right there. It's execution, it's commitment, it's consistency, it's showing up when you don't want to show up. When you have a bad day, still continuing and not getting in your head. So I think it's easier because of technology. It's also easier to give up because you didn't have to put too much skin in the game to get started in the first place.
Mhm. After you brainstorm all of that and say, okay, these are my skills, some people might think, okay, I need to have this very big website. I need to have this massive launch. I'm a mom. My income is already being spread with daycare and housing and all that kind of thing. Can you maybe share with parents what you think are maybe the top 3 things that you need that
Mhm.
might not necessarily cost a whole lot of money? Or do you really need a big fancy website and this big bliss to start out?
So I would say the basics that you need is a payment processor and way for you to communicate what you do. Once again, like you will want to be in a space where you are marketing yourself. So I've seen people that just, they'll focus on finding clients and promoting themselves through Instagram. They'll have like a one pager that's free. Like there's a lot of free website builders out there. And as long as you have a way to collect payment, you're in business, right? So you don't have to start with a whole lot. It also does depend though on like who your target market is and what kind of business you are in. So certain business will call for a level of professionalism. I would say, for example, if it's a business where it's like counseling or consulting, you do want to have a brand in place so that you are displaying a sense of authority and professionalism. So I wouldn't say show up in a t-shirt, take a picture. It needs to still look quality because again, you are competing with other people in the marketplace. However, getting started with your current network. So if you're not doing online marketing, you're letting your current community network know you're showing up live to maybe your local business chamber of commerce or any local events. You being polished in person, meaning, putting on a nice blouse or blazer and looking professional, being personable is enough. But I would say the bare minimum is like having your payment processor. You could even set up PayPal, Stripe easily and for free. And that alone is the best way to start. I do want to say though that sacrifice in the beginning is important. So you will want to have a little bit of cash to fund the business aspects of the business. And so what can you cut back on? Does it mean that you're going to cut back on a certain treat, a coffee, whatever it is? If you're looking at your time, what are you going to cut back on in terms of time? Is it less TV entertainment or less social media? So these things are going to be important because you are going to need some time resources and money resources. So I wouldn't say the glitz and glam is necessary, but there is going to be some sacrifices to get things going.
One of the mistakes I made, I wasn't fully aware of the branding aspect of it.
Hmm.
I remember you told me it was a bit confusing. So it's
Hmm.
also understanding your color palette, what you're trying to communicate, the industry that you're in. I didn't even realize that in certain industry there is a certain color scheme that communicates. It's the psychology of colors. That colors
Hmm.
really communicate a certain message. So it depends on the area that you want to focus on. All of that plays a role because a simple thing as your it's not a simple thing, but your branding can turn people off instantly, even though you might have a good product, right?
Yeah, and we do have color is one aspect, messaging is another. We as humans, we judge. Our brain in the first 2 to 3 seconds has already summed up the person that's standing in front of them and whether they should trust them or not. And even more so now with AI, there's also that aspect of marketing yourself and putting yourself out there. And so we want to, in this time, be authentic. I think that would be most important now. That advice, and things are happening and changing so fast. So the advice where I would say look absolutely polished online is not actually advice that I would give in this season of marketing, because too polished looks like AI now. Inauthentic, it looks like you didn't do it now. So keeping our ear to the ground in terms of what's working is going to be important. You're going to want to not start your business by yourself. Plugged into communities that are supporting each other, that have other experts to give you advice such as this, right? Business coaching might come along the way. And actually, I'll speak on this because I remember when I was starting my business, I was afraid of taking money to invest in myself to get the advice I needed to get off the ground. And I waited way too long to get help. And I think that sometimes as mothers, we are very much like, be very resourceful, do it ourselves, we'll figure it out. But sometimes the time it takes to figure it out on your own is too long to gain any traction. So if you can, when you're getting started, I definitely would, find someone that can help you put the bare bones together of your brand message, your marketing, your sales process, and create a 6-month runway plan on what you're going to do, so you're not having to spend months and even years figuring it out on your own. But yeah,
But that
that's
can I,
important. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
can I ask you something about that? Because I
Yeah.
remembered when I was in that stage where I was trying to find someone, and you were doing a live on Facebook, and somebody of somebody in my friends list actually reposted it. And your message connected with me, but on a spiritual level, it's really connected with me. For people who might not be as intuitive, when I was looking for a coach, I will see people doing these webinars and all of that, and something just didn't click. It looked inauthentic in a way,
Mm.
and it just and because I also had limited cash too, I really didn't know who to trust to kind of guide me. But eventually I went with my intuition. But for mothers who might not necessarily, for whatever reason, have that intuitive thing going, how can they discern the business coach that they can go with? Because some people might say if the business coach is really expensive, that's value. But I have seen that's not necessarily true. There are lots of people who sell high and then you go into their program and it's like blah, right? So you are at this spot, you've never been in this environment. How can you discern to say, okay, this is maybe somebody I can work with to kind of help me get off the ground?
I would be so if you aren't, I'll say this first. If you aren't intuitive, and for me, it's spirit led. So once again, I very much lean into faith and prayer with decision making. And that is a skill that you can develop over time. So taking the time to pause, reflect, really feel into a decision is important. And when you have a sense of peace, then move forward. I think making a decision with peace is most important. If there is anxiety or fear or sales tactics that are motivating you to make a decision, that's not really the best space to make decisions from, because you're just going to bring about more anxious situations. So that would be my advice. If we're talking more tangible ways of making a decision, it would be to really focus on the outcomes of what the coach or the course or the program is saying it will be able to help you achieve. So, out of being outcome focused and result focused versus they look great, or, they're very flashy or popular, or they're influencer is most important. There are people that sell high ticket programs, which can be transformational. But once again, thinking about what the outcome is of that, what is going to be the result of the program, And is that the result you're looking for would probably be most important thing to look at. Yeah. And then once again, I would say just not getting pressure sold into anything. It's very easy to get caught up in gimmicks. And I've worked with a lot of people that have even told me they've paid thousands or hundreds of dollars only to get nothing out of it. I will say this though, some programs or coaches, you don't get anything out of it unless you put in, you have to meet the coach and the program halfway. So if they've given you a strategy, you got to go and do it to get the outcome, right? A lot of programs are informational. So it's information. When you use that information and you apply it, you should get an outcome. So it's not just showing up and listening to the coach and being, oh, that's a good idea. And then you don't do it. And then you complain after. Well, that's not the problem of the coach. That is definitely a problem of activity and commitment, being productive.
Yeah, you really have to put the work in. You can't expect the coach to transform your life. They're
Yeah.
just guiding you, and you are the one who should do the work. When you mentioned the sale tactics, I went through that as well. And I think, especially for women, it might be a bit more difficult to say no because before I got connected with you, I remember being on a few sales calls and I was like, whoa, this is intense. They know the emotional buttons to push to
Yeah.
get to you. But then deep down inside, I was like, it feels kind of icky. I don't know, something's not right. But I think mothers and women in general have to be aware that there are real scientific strategies that
Yeah.
can sway your emotions even though on a deeper spiritual level, you know something is off. And sometimes it's hard for us as women to say no as well. You're saying, okay, if you don't close right now, you're going to lose the 20% discount. And you really don't want to lose the 20%, but deep down inside, something is not right. And you don't want to feel like you're disappointing this person too as well. And I think sometimes as women, we have to realize that, okay, that might be a weakness that I have. And I have to say, I will think about it and get back to you in 24 hours or something, right? Because the
Yeah.
strategies can be really forceful sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, there are very advanced level ways of communicating value and selling. So absolutely these sales conversations, whether in webinar or one-on-one, as soon as you feel there's a level of pressure, then you do want to step back and just remind yourself that this is going to be available another day. And if not with that particular offer, you will get the skills you need. You'll get the resources you need. I believe that if we're truly in alignment with the first step, which is what are my skills? How can I serve? And the focus is not just about making money, but it's stepping into a bigger way of thinking, which is if I'm providing value to people, I will receive. I'm in a place of receiving back what I give. And as long as you're not running a charity, which is a different business model, because a lot of women go into business thinking they're running a business, but they're actually running a charity. And that's another conversation. But recognizing that you're providing a service, and if you focus on providing good value, that you should receive and reciprocate that back and get that back. So when we move from that space of I am providing value and I'll receive it, I do believe that you will begin to see things come in alignment, resources come your way. I do believe that when you show up as that person, everything will be provided for you. Just keep your eyes out, be positive, keep looking for solutions, being a resourceful woman. My favorite scripture is Proverbs 31, verse 10 to 31. And when I was becoming an entrepreneur, I would wake up and recite that scripture over and over again. I would read it out loud, and it speaks of a woman who is entrepreneurial. She has children, she has maidens, she's married, and she is very resourceful. And it is something that we need to embody. Who we are, we bear fruit. We produce results, and it all stems from who we are as an individual. So that being said, That's why it's important to ground yourself and not just wake up on a whim in a fluster, get the kids ready. You're starting the day wrong. From that place, you're going to get into situations that are not deliberate versus being all in this chaotic frazzle of things, which I think is very easy for us to fall track prey to, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, especially as mothers. I want to ask you something you mentioned. You mentioned AI earlier as being an
Mhm.
assistant. And I think with AI changing things so quickly these days, mothers, women, wives might be thinking, I have these skill sets. Should I really do it with AI taking over everything? Does it really make sense? Oh, that's question one. And I guess two is, how do you see mothers kind of using, or wives using AI to help them with launching their business instead of thinking, well, it's taking over everything already. What's the point?
Yeah. So I think that the most important thing to always remember is that AI doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have the thing that makes us human, which is a soul and a personality. It is just a copy of all iterations that were written online. AI is built on a language model, meaning that it has gathered pre existing ideas and information on the internet or based off of what the developers has fed them as information, and they're just re-spitting that out. It's not it's not able to do what humans have, which is have consciousness, its own conscious, to get ideas, spirituality to plug into the energetics of a community and really get to the soul and heart of a solution for that community. It can use case studies from the past, but it can't be innovative here and now. So when we start from a place of who am I and identity, and we begin to mine what makes me as a human notable in this time and in my community, then we're able to create a service or a product that is going to transcend what AI is going to do. Now, AI can help you come up with ideas, but this is why I always say it's going to come back to mindset and being very deliberate with your active service in the world. Us as humans, we have so much value. So AI will never be able to take that away. So that being said, I don't think that we should totally lean on AI for a long-term business strategy. For a quick buck, it's very easy to implement, right? Get a quick idea, put it into place, but is that sustainable? What makes a company grow and have mission and purpose and really attract people that are like going to refer you and actually have an impact is that soulful part, the why, the meaning why, and all of that. So I would say that you are still driving the ship. I think you could use AI tools to help you, once again, brainstorm, to help you write, to help you automate things, but you are still the controller of things. You still need to guide it. You still need to be mindful of how you're going into service. If we as humanity get to a place where we don't want human connection, which I don't think we'll ever get there, then sure, maybe AI will take over, but AI really can't replace the human. However, there is massive deception now and it will get even worse. So once again, we have to train ourselves and our families to be grounded in who we are as our unique image of God and hold fast to that so that we don't, once again, fall in a whirlwind of deception. And so, do you see how starting from a place of being grounded every day is going to guide? That's your like number one compass of being able to do a lot of things. And Dr. Taniesha, you know that I'm involved in a lot of things. And I always get that question, how do you do it all? How do you do it all? And I actually don't know. I don't have a logical explanation other than when I wake up, I'm grounded. I know who I am and I act from a place of peace and knowing that it's just going to all work out and that everything is working in my favor. All of these thoughts are what I produce as an outcome. And so when you act from that area of thinking, you are going to produce fruitful results versus, again, chaos. And that's what we want to avoid.
Yeah, thank you for that. I know some mothers listening, they might say, I don't really want to do the entrepreneurial thing, like setting up my thing from scratch. A lot of mothers might not know that there are other things that they can do online that would allow them to have more time at home with their children and with their husband or partner. I mean, maybe AI will give some assistance, but what do you see worked really well over your years of coaching for women who might not necessarily want their own business, but they're helping other businesses? What kind of skills or title that you've seen worked for them?
So if you feel like you're not led to start your own company or business, it still comes back to what am I good at? What are you good at? What it brings you joy and getting in tune with your purpose and then using that as like, okay, what company, what business owner can I serve? There are skill sets such as like administration. There's some skills that have kind of been taken away, like writing, for example, but usually companies will still need a writer that will write with AI. So the landscape has changed. Work from home is very much administrative, like virtual assistant, sales, customer service. All of these types of tasks can be done virtually at home. Other than that, if you are into coding or into art or making products at home, that might be a way to help. But usually a lot of it is being a virtual assistant, a digital marketing assistant as well. There is one platform actually that two platforms that have helped me along the way. One is called Fiverr and one is called Upwork. Those are freelance platforms that you can put your skills on there if it's simply being able to sort emails and that sort of thing. But here's the problem. You still have to be good at communicating your value because it's online, it's work from home, you're competing with globally now. Globally, people are on there. So being very confident in what you do is going to be important. Confident goes right back to mindset and trusting that you can do it. But that would be my advice for finding at home things that you could do, yeah, just continuing to keep your ear down to the floor on what to do. I want to say something. I could speak to a person here that's at effect, that's like this is hard, I don't know what to do, etc. No matter what, this advice is only going to work for those people that are like, okay, this is hard, but I can do this. You have to meet these tips and advice with the mindset of this is going to be hard, but I can do this. If you're still in a place of this is going to be hard, I don't know if I could do this, then you're not going to do it, right? Like everything is created from a thought at first. And so being an entrepreneur is much more about stamina, commitment, thinking, and how you think and how from those thoughts you move forward. So I know I keep coming back to this mindset thing, but when moms and people that are wanting to start a business and they come with um, and I don't want to be condescending, but they come with a desperate mindset, they have to shift, they have to shift their into abundance mindset or it's not going to work. You have to shift into abundance mindset. Abundance mindset is knowing that you are loved and cared for deeply and divinely, that you were worthy of having abundance and that there's a lot out there, and really working on value. What is my value and identity? I have something to offer and it's worth being paid for. Because if we're not having that way of thinking, it's not going to work. It really won't. And then you end up being in a situation that you don't want to be. I'm very much compelling everyone to shift into abundance mindset. Mhm.
Yeah, so as you said, it's a foundation, and It's really have to making sure that that's corrected first before
Mhm.
you dive in. I should really mention also, you introduced me to Fiverr, and there were a lot of things that I got helped with logo development and even things for my summits and so on
Mhm.
that people on Fiverr helped me with. But one of the things too, as you mentioned, there's so
Mhm.
many people on Fiverr from around the world
Mhm.
that even the way you set up your page on Fiverr has to clearly communicate what you have to offer
Mhm.
because there's so many to choose from. And I know at the beginning, people might be a bit disheartened because they don't have the 100 testimonials and examples of their work and so on. But people are willing to take a chance on you if you
Mhm.
clearly communicate the value that you have to offer to them. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have a profile on Fiverr. I don't use it that often, but um I was kind of doing a little bit of a test there, I think back in about 2023. And so I started by doing some writing jobs there just to get some 5 stars. Um, and I would say in about 6 months, I was able to really gain traction there and charge my premium prices there now. And it's generated a lot of great clients for me. So a platform like Fiverr, even Upwork, you might have to, and this is even with off the platforms. When you're getting started, you need to get the testimonials. You need to get things in place to show that what you're providing is going to be of value. And so be comfortable with doing a few things for low or free, just so you can get that tangible proof of what you can offer in the beginning. And then as you have testimonial and proof, you can now begin to use that as a way to build credibility.
I want us to switch gears to talk about how you, as wife, mother, entrepreneur, how you do it all. Because the first part, we talk about what you can do, how you can launch, making
Mhm,
sure your mindset is okay. You found your idea, you create
mhm,
your brand, your messaging is on point. But then there's a whole set of other things that need to go well. My first question in this area is, how has your faith really shaped you as an entrepreneur and your identity as not
mhm.
just an entrepreneur, but also as a wife and mother?
So my faith is everything. All of my success is from my faith. Everything I am is from my faith. So when people that aren't really faith based or faith driven ask me the question, I don't really know how to answer it because I am like the type of person that will jump off an airplane and be like, God, I know you're going to open my parachute before I hit the floor. And so that radical faith, like being an entrepreneur is a risk taker. So that's another thing. It is about taking a risk. It's about assessing a marketplace and assessing how you can get a solution in front of that marketplace and then taking a risk, a calculated risk that, okay, if I do this, if I present this offer or solution in front of these people, I believe they're going to buy. I believe they're going to buy it at this rate. And you make the calculations based on it and then you go, right? It's very much a risk though, right? Because you're risking your time, your energy, and your money to make that happen. So faith has been my foundation from the very beginning. I remember just even the idea of you have to go out and attract clients and you have bills to pay and all of those things, you have to go by faith. And so it drives everything I do in business. Everything, every decision, it starts there for me. So if you are in a place where you're like, wow, that sounds very daring, very hard. Sometimes life will put you in a situation where you have no choice but to do that. So one thing about me is that I also am a caregiver. Right now my mom's in a stable situation, but one of the I would say the fire underneath my butt at one point was that I had no choice but to be an entrepreneur, that I couldn't hold a full-time job because it would be hard to juggle my children, my health, and my mom's needs as well. So when your back's against the wall and entrepreneurship is the only gateway to being able to sustain yourself, you will figure it out. You will figure it out. The way our brain is designed is very solution oriented if you are determined, right? So I don't remember what your question was, but answer your question.
How your faith shaped your
Yeah.
attitude.
So faith, I mean, it shaped everything because I just always had belief that I could do it, right? And I didn't give up. And even if it was taking a risk, putting me in a very uncomfortable situation, taking that step to breathe and pray and say, God, I know you got me, and go for it is how I was able to do so much.
Mm.
And so if you go with that mindset that you have God that truly loves you and wants you to succeed, truly, right? If you truly believe in that sense, you're going to be fine. You're just going to be fine, right? And so radical faith is what drives my business and everything I do. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't have it any other way. I actually can't see myself because I'm not perfect. I I'm a personal branding consultant, so sometimes it looks like when I show up, I have it all together. But as a marketer and a personal branding consultant, that's what I do. I make things look great, but I don't have it all together. I truly don't. There will be times where there's laundry there's actually laundry left for me to fold, right? There's going to be times where, oh shoot, I have to default to pizza and carrots and not to the fulfilling healthy meal that I want to provide for my family. There are going to be times where everything is not perfect, but in our weakness is where we actually can, find strength in faith to meet us with what we have. One thing that I love is the story of Jesus and he had to feed the 5,000 and all they had was a few loaves and fish, but that's why it always starts with, well, what do you have? And how can we multiply that? So starting with what do I have? Okay, I'm really good with this one skill set. I'm going to use this skill set and have faith that through my activity and God's blessing that it's going to multiply into a business that can feed my family, right? You don't even have to try to feed 5,000, just your family, right? So having that mindset and coming with what we have. And so coming back to that place of inventory, what do I have as a skill set, as a passion, and how can I bring this to the table and use it to create more? And that's the abundance mindset because we never start from zero. We always start from some sort of talent or skill or resource that we can leverage.
You said something earlier as you were describing your faith, but you had to become an entrepreneur because you also become a caregiver. And I think that is so relatable to so many women now, where you're kind of the generation stuck in the middle,
Mhm.
where you're raising your children and now you have aging parents and you also have to be caring for them at the same time. And that is where the pressure forces you to start thinking outside of the box relating
Mhm.
to how I can still provide for my children and
Mhm.
also take care of my parents. I know we've been talking about faith a lot. I think for persons who might not be religious or spiritual, they might not understand what you mean by faith.
Mhm.
So, just in case there are listeners wondering, they keep talking about faith. What exactly is that?
Faith is the substance of things unseen and the things hoped for is what the Bible says. So it's the substance of things unseen, meaning that it is almost living proof of a vision or a goal. And as an entrepreneurial mom, you're going to be setting a lot of goals. And so what is evidence that that goal will happen? It's your faith and your confidence. So it is the intangible proof that it's going to happen. And so when we talk about faith, it's just belief that this business is going to work, or stepping out into this landscape is going to work. That precedes whether whether you believe in God or not. We actually have faith all the time. We're operating from faith all the time, right? When we make an appointment and trust that the other person is going to meet us, that's an act of faith, because we don't know, no, we can assume, right? And this is where entrepreneurs, I feel, especially if you've maybe grown up or had a past where you didn't have people you can trust, or maybe you're unstable. And this will be very applicable to your parenting. 'Cause we want to create environments for our kids where they feel stable and where they're feeling safe. And so if you're someone that has grown up in a very unstable situation, faith can be, and confidence can be a little bit more disturbed and not as solid. Because if you, for example, all your life have been in unstable situations, bounced around from home to home. This is my story, right? My mom was challenged with schizophrenia, mental health issues. My parents divorced, and I did bounce around from friends' homes, neighbors' homes, aunties, foster care for a little bit. And so I never had a stable living situation. My first stable living situation was when I got married. And so the problem with that is I had to unlearn that things are going to not work out. Because I would always have an expectation of this might not work, right? And so I had to lean on faith versus evidence of my past, right? Or what I'm used to. So faith is stepping out from what you're used to into a new dimension of possibility and trusting that, well, if I continue down this path, it's going to work. I have more control than I think and know. So that was something I struggled with as an entrepreneur, which was uncertainty. And because I grew up uncertain, business felt uncertain, and there was a lot of fear there. So, in terms of what is faith for people, it's really just moving your mindset from a place of moving it into a place of expectation of the possibilities. And that faith is what anchors you to keep going, even though you don't see what's in the future.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. That's very beautiful. Earlier, you mentioned Proverbs 31, and that's one of your favorites in the Bible. How has Proverbs 31 shaped you as an entrepreneur, mother, and wife? And can
Mhm.
that be of benefit to women who are also listening to us talk about it?
Yeah. So I'll give context to the scripture. So basically there was a king, and he was asking his mother or his grandmother, what should I look for in a wife to help him rule, right? And so the mother goes on to giving advice to the king of what not to look for, and then goes on to what to look for and describes this excellent wife. So this would be a queen with qualities that are very loving, caring for the community, for her family, towards her husband, but someone that's not idle, someone that is resourceful. And so Proverbs 31 describes a woman that has a vision. She wakes up early and is distributing tasks to her helpers if she has one, distributing tasks to herself, right? She'll go across the city or across the land to do business. She'll flip that into a profit. She's going to seek land and real estate and buy it, and it describes this woman that is excellent in what she does. Also at home, they don't have to worry about the winter times because she's already made a plan for that. This is like the perfect woman, right? And then it also says her husband is known at the gates, meaning that he is influential or good at what he does in his career because of her. Because of her, he's doing a great job. And then the children call her blessed. So we see this home where everyone's flourishing because of this woman. And she laughs at the future, it says. So it's not a place where she's feeling depleted or, oh my gosh, everybody's reliant on me. I have to be there. It's a different attitude. It's because she is an excellent and goes about her life in this spirit of excellence. She has joy, her children have joy, her husband has joy, and there's overflow for even the community. So I think that is something that we can all strive towards. Like, who wouldn't want to have a joyful life with their children and husband, um, and and leave that legacy for her community? So there are some key traits that I glean from that Proverbs 31. One would be that she is aware of her skill set, and the woman that's described here is she's good at fashion, creating clothing and selling sashes. So she also leverages whatever she's made into investing, because she buys a land and sees that it's profitable. So she's educating herself on how to be profitable, how to invest and save. She's planning and getting up early and stays up late too. But how is she able to do that? It says she also strengthens her arms. So she is living a healthy lifestyle, right? At the capacity that I work, personally, I have to get a workout in to make sure I'm pumping myself with energy. I have to make sure I'm hydrating, all of those things. So it describes the basic things that I think a lot of us know we should do, which is we need to be healthy. We need to fill our cup. We need to work out. We need to um, make a plan and have a strategy. We need to be efficient with what we make and reinvest it. Leveraging your cash in investment will be another way of making money. So we see all of these tactics that she's doing, and then she's even still giving back. So she's not in a place of scarcity. She is still going to give back. She gives back in wisdom, it says. So she always has something wise to say. So that means she is filling her cup personal development wise, whether it be through devotionals or doing masterminds to learn, to stretch ourselves, all of these things. So for me, Proverbs 31 is like the template for how to do it. And that's why when I just got started, I started to do the transition when I was pregnant with my first. And then when my first was born, I was on mat leave and I never returned to work. So my transition happened when I was becoming a mother. And I kid you not, I would wake up and there was a window that kind of had a wonderful view, and I would recite and read it out loud every day because I knew I wanted to become her. And so that scripture still drives me to this day. I'm not all of her yet, but it's really someone to aspire to. And I would say the main thing it ends with, this woman fears the Lord. And by fear is a great way of meaning that they acknowledge God in all that they do. They acknowledge that their efforts, what they're doing is bigger than themselves, right? It's not just about them and their household, but it is in the bigger orchestration of life, right? And so I think having that spiritual awareness, when you're an entrepreneur, you become spiritual. Even if you're not Christian, an atheist will become spiritual in their own way. You'll find people, they might think of the universe and how the universe conspires to work with them. Or they'll think about the principles of life and of sowing and reaping and cause and effect. When you become an entrepreneur, you're becoming a leader, and leadership is mindful of the bigger picture. And so you see that in Proverbs 31, but you will see that in your own life. If you're venturing out in this way, you're going to be spiritual in your own way, whether it's, and it's not in a particular religion, but it's the awareness of people and how we engage with each other. Because business is all about transactions, people exchanging money for a value, right? And so that's why And this comes back to the AI situation because transaction and sales and making money and having a business is all about value exchange, right? What can I get from you for your service? Or what can I get from you for your product? That comes back to the heart and the needs of an individual. So we always end up going down this path no matter what and how we look at it.
Yeah, you have me thinking at the end of this interview, I need to read Psalm 31 again. I've read it before, but
Proverbs 31. Yeah. Yeah.
Proverbs 31.
Yeah.
I really need to look at that. I think many mothers and wives will be meditating on that scripture as well. Part of being that Proverbs 31 woman is also being a wonderful mother, and so you wear so many hats. You're in the film industry, you're acting, you're producing, you're also helping people like myself to launch their business, plus you're a wife. How do you balance everything so that your
Mhm.
children still feel connected and loved with you?
Yeah. Well, I will say that entrepreneurship enabled me to be much more present. And that was actually one of the primary ways why I became an entrepreneur, because I wanted to be more present and because I wanted to be at when my kids would go on field trips, like be able to be there for that. Um, and to just even have more time to teach my values and advice and wisdom. And so that came first for me. Like, I want to be more present and a great mom, and I need to be more available. Therefore, I'm going to start a business so I can be more flexible. So I'm coming from that perspective. And so because family was the reason why I started my business, naturally that came about as a result, right? Being an entrepreneur, that was a way of being in service to my family. And so when we look at the question of how do we balance family, etc., that is something you want to think about in your business planning, right at the beginning. So what time will I have? What resources and time do I have when, you know, okay, I have a slot during this time or a slot during that time. This is when I'm going to do business. That means I can do this at this time. So you are actually working your family plan into your business plan. And it's still something I do to this day. When I was going into more film production, I was making the plan with my family in mind. And so as mothers, when we think about business planning, it's different from how men do it, because men are like, I'm going to work, I'm going away. Traditionally, that's how we think about it. But for us as mothers and wives, our business plan is our house, our home economics plan. All of it goes together. It's not an isolated, I'm planning my business here and then I'm planning my family here and then I'm planning my self-care here. So when I make a plan, my calendar is everything all in one, all of the quadrants of life. And that's how I'm able to have balance. And by balance is not perfection. It's not equal dividers. Sometimes we think about balance as like 25% here, 25%. Um, the concept of balance needs to be more of how flexible am I and agile am I throughout the week? So it doesn't mean that you're working 9 to 5 on your business. And then it might be that you're working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is your day off, right? Or you sleep all day Friday, but work Friday night. Like you have to get out of the culture's way of work and work from a clean slate of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. How am I going to do life? Right. And so that when you open up your mind to doing it that way, you're able to find flexibility, take breaks. Here are a few tips I would say. One is I'm very in tune with my menstrual cycle. I know my menstrual cycle is going to be 26 days. When it starts, the first 4 days I'm out. So maybe day 1, day 2, I'll could be getting ready to be totally in rest day 3, day 4. I know day 5, 6, 7, 8 are very high energy days, so I can get a lot of work done. And so knowing your rhythm of your body is so important as well. Right? Day 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I'd say up to day 10, up to day 15, I know is like peak energy levels, can do a lot of stuff. Day 16 up to the last 10 days before I hit my menstrual again is more of, I know my energy is going to be a little bit lower. It's things are starting to slow down and you're about to start a new cycle. So I'm more forgiving of myself. I'm not going to overbook myself with clients. I'm not going to be making critical decisions, right? If I go into crazy zone of like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, which you will have those moments, I will be like, oh yeah, I'm PMSing, right? So I'm very, very, really strict and religious when it comes to my menstrual, um, because your hormones, and even as you get older, your hormones do have an impact on how you process information and strategize. So that is, I think, one of the biggest things that has helped me maintain optimal health and functionality in things. So look at your whole life as a business plan, as an economical plan, and be aware of where you are in your own cycle of health and wellness.
This is such an amazing tip, even for mothers who are not thinking about going into entrepreneurship, right? They're
Yeah.
working, getting home from work, trying to connect with the children, especially in the latter part of your cycle, and you're feeling tired and overwhelmed and not having enough patience and not understanding. So I think a lot of mothers who never thought of how their cycle affects their parenting and decision making skills and all of that will now be able to reflect and maybe do some research on what are the things happening in each phase of the cycle so that they can perhaps start modifying their own
Yeah.
expectations of themselves
Right.
regarding work, children, and their spouse. And
Absolutely.
I want to now go into that part because with you wearing so many hats, how are you able to maintain the romantic, intimate part of your marriage? Because one of the things I'm noticing, especially for young mothers, those are who have children under 5 years
Mm-hmm.
old, you might feel that you're becoming housemates or roommates because, in addition to being an entrepreneur or even not, just working, it takes so much to take care of little ones, especially before age 4, 5. And you feel like you're just in the rhythm of changing diapers. Children are sick, especially in the winter time and all of that, and you just lose touch with each other. So how do you and your husband maintain that intimate connection that is needed to provide that stable home for your children?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wouldn't say I'm an expert on this right now because I don't have the diapers and all that. My daughters are very like interdependent, and we could talk about how to raise interdependent children. But when I was in that time, I'll speak from that time. Yeah, it was very hard. It was almost like you're the scores in your house,
For
right?
everything.
And it's almost like, and I can understand when women say, I feel like I lost myself because it's almost like just the life is being sucked out of you, right? You're just totally in a place of giving, giving, giving. I would say that once again, we're going to have to sacrifice certain things. Saying no more to extra, like when it's a Saturday and there's a birthday party or whatever, saying no to days that are going to be your rest day or a potential day for you to relax is going to be important. So having no as a resource so that you can get your energy levels up, because usually when what intimacy, when we're going to be intimate in the room, it's usually we want to have the energy because by the time we want to be intimate in the night is when we're depleted, right? So you are going to have to fill your cup with Filling your cup spills all over into all problems and so resolves all problems. So the more you can have more sleep, more time to yourself to refuel, because there is no magic wand. You will go through that phase of diapers, lots of work. And so you have to understand the season you're in, right? And it won't be like that forever. It won't be like that forever. So I think we need to understand that the solution is one, recognizing that you are in a season of a lot of mothering and giving of yourself. That is the honor of being a mom and a wife. So recognize that the season you're in, and now be resourceful. Resourceful meaning making a plan for how can I mine one more energy in my life. So that would be not too much sugars, drinking a lot of water, having easy to grab snacks for yourself, because that's going to contribute to your energy, and then sleep.
The
If you
healthy
can,
snacks too.
healthy snacks too.
Not the
Yeah.
carbohydrate
Yeah.
laden and sugar laden.
And then protecting your time so that you can have sleep and time for yourself. So protecting your time usually isn't by saying no more. Once again, can you come do this, or we're going out for this, or saying no to things a lot more and being okay with not being able to participate in all the other events and excursions that our relatives or friends or work might pressure us to be a part of, because you're in a season and eventually you will come out of that season. But that's the simple advice I would give, because the truth of the matter is you are going to go through that season, and how you make decisions around protecting your time and fueling yourself with sleep and food is going to help you. So when you do that, you will have more energy. And so by the time you get to that late night, it should be better. There is one thing I would say though that can be a little interesting, which is if you're breastfeeding, sometimes it's kind of, for me at least, it was strange to go from breastfeeding to having those fondled. Because so I did have to have that awareness of I need to switch hats mentally so that I can be present in that way. So when you're in motherhood, you're often in motherhood and all you are is mother, but you do need to even visually imagine, okay, the baby's sleeping. I'm going to put this hat over here. And now I'm going to receive from my husband. Because sometimes we're like, oh, I'm going to give, but it's a two-way thing. He's going to be affectionate with you. He's going to love on you. He's going to hold you. You're going to be intimate in that way. And so it's not, when you're going to have sex and be romantic, you're going to receive as well. And you're going to receive pleasure as well. But I think when we're in mom mode, we're zoned out of that. You could see everything comes back to mindset for me. But I do also find that doing things like lighting a candle, putting on some Zen music to help tell my body to calm down is important, because we might be high stress all day and then we go to bed in that same feeling and behavior and mind. So you will want to also do things to calm and self-soothe into a different mode. Get into your feminine is what I would say. So all day might have been work, 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 gotta get this done, da da da. But then you also have to self-soothe into your own romantic way. And so for me, lighting a candle and having some meditative music helps me change into a feeling of wanting to be intimate. And when I don't do it, I have to consciously do it. That's me as an individual. So it might be helpful for others.
Yeah, and I also think too, for especially for women who were high achievers before
Mhm.
marriage and children, and they were able to get everything done by themselves in the past, it might be difficult to say to your husband, "Hey, I need some help," or "I'm drowning." Or
Mhm.
sometimes we make the mistake of thinking, he sees that I have all the laundry not folded. He sees that, right? So why isn't he helping? And thinking that our husbands can really read our mind. And I'm thinking also to communicate, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I can't do the laundry,
Yeah.
the dishes, or whatever right now. Can you help?
So my default is the things that are least important, which usually tend to be things that are not related to relationship. If I have to have a pile of laundry and a pile of dishes so that I can have the energy and be able to give to my husband, there'll be piles of dishes and laundry. And if my husband questions that, I'll be like, well, it was a busy day. Did you have time to do it? Well, I didn't. Like, it's that understanding. That's what I mean by we can't be perfectionists with doing these different seasons of life. It's okay for the laundry to be there unfolded so that you can have that extra hour to sleep, right? Sometimes, oh, my child has this and I got to be there and all of that hockey or basketball or whatever, soccer, all dance. We have to, again, take into consideration all elements, and we only have 24 hours in a day. So that's why it comes back to really planning what's the family plan? Like, what is the family plan? How are we doing family? And this is not just for a business owner. This is for a career professional as well. Like, how are we doing family? If I'm occupied with this and hubby's occupied with that, what are the children's contribution? And just not saying yes to everything. There has to be a plan. It has to be what you say ecological, meaning that it's an ecosystem within this household that feeds into everything. Right. And so we have to make sure there's balance in all areas. That's the only way, because, sometimes we look for strategies like what's the one thing here to implement? That is not the best way to go about doing this. The best way to go about it is what is my ecosystem and where are there cracks in the system? Where are there loose gears? Where is there not flow? Because when you change that one thing, you're going to need to change the entire ecosystem. So just throwing in a strategy sometimes doesn't solve the problem. You have to make sure the whole engine and the whole motor and the whole system is working together. And so, yeah, sometimes if we overburden ourselves, then something else has to give.
Yeah, yeah. Before you mentioned interdependent children,
Mhm.
and just for the listeners, they might be wondering, what
Yeah.
do you mean by that? How to raise
Oh my
interdependent
gosh.
children? Or do we need another podcast for
I think
that?
this is good. I think this is going to be one thing that I brag about because my kids are phenomenal. Mind you, I do have two girls, and I haven't had the experience of having a boy. So, um, that might be a different psychological thing, but my children are so, they're 12 and 11, and they are so interdependent. Interdependent means like they can be dependent, like independent, and you can be independent and you can work together to both thrive by yourself and together. So independence tends to say they're doing it by themselves without any help. So interdependence means that they're independent, family, everyone is self-sufficient and works together. So that actually started with my favorite book for having children and sleep training and working with babies is The Baby Whisperer. I love that book. And in that book, it basically gives you the philosophy of like being a human and our cues for our needs. And from the very beginning, understanding what their cues as a baby was, when are they actually hungry? When are they actually tired? How to help them learn how to self-soothe. So when you put them to bed, they go to bed on their own and you're not rocking all night trying to, like, they learn to self-soothe by the time they're 6 months. Such a great book. And so I was able to start my business when I had babies because we had such a great ritual and ecosystem of when they would have nap time, when they wouldn't, etc., that it gave me very solid, predictable blocks because we are creatures of habit. So that was super helpful. But as we got older, it's always just remembering we're not here to coddle our children. We're here to teach and then let them play within a boundary and learn a lesson. And every so often, we will expound that boundary a little bit more. They might trip, they might fall, they might make a mistake, but that failure is a part of life. So just throughout their learning stages, giving them a little bit more responsibility here and there. So whether it's like, okay, you're 3 years old, but your job is to take out the bathroom trash and put it at the front, giving them that responsibility from the beginning and letting them be a part of your family plan and ecosystem for maintaining the home is great. Let's start with making peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? For lunch by yourself, which is easy, right? When their motor skills are starting, they grab the bread, they grab the peanut butter, and they smack it on and they drink water. And there you go. They're already starting to make their own lunch. So we need to look at children as little humans, I would say, right? They don't have all the functions to make very strong decisions, but they are very capable. And mm, I almost want to say that I treated them as not adults, but again, little humans, not children that
You
will
believe
never
in their
learn.
ability. You believe in their
Yes.
ability. I think as you were speaking, I'm thinking a lot of parents maybe not trust their children's ability, and their
Hmm.
children might sense that too and just throw in the towel. Okay, you just take care of me.
Yeah, mommy's gonna do it.
Yes, believing in their ability, knowing, okay, if they take up the glass and it breaks, next time you teach them how to hold the glass properly, you clean up together and all of that. So it's a learning process. So it seems as if you really allowed your
Really.
children to develop their skill sets, which then allow their confidence to just bloom. And that then creates this interdependence that you have with them, right?
100%. And I mean, after COVID, the pandemic happened, we leaned into that more and transitioned into homeschooling and really. So right now they're hybrid homeschooled, meaning that they do spend 3 days at an alternative school and then the other two home. But we did do 2 years of full-fledged homeschooling and really leaned into their skill sets around just the main things of life, like counting money, right? How to cook, home economics, a huge part, the basics of just reading, writing, math. And during that time, they very much accelerated to be, again, very interdependent. So right now, they're 11 and 12 at the time of this recording. And when it comes to, okay, I have my alarm to wake up at this time, get ready, make breakfast, make my lunch. And, they're usually waking me up so I could say goodbye because I sleep in. But because of all those years of really trusting their skill set and letting them blossom in that way. And so that is why I could do so much now, is because I realize that I am developing my children to be ready for the world. If anything were to happen to me, even now, I feel like they'll be okay. I feel like they could, if they needed to, get their own apartment, really. So that comes into being a mother as well. Is like, you got to be a really good delegator. You got to communicate, as you said before, to your husband, to your children. Again, when I'm on day 3, 4 of my menstrual, everybody knows. It's like, guys, okay, so in the next 3 days, I'm going to be in my menstrual cycle. I'm not going to be cooking any dinner. There's this in the pantry. There's this, that. And please check on me because I'm going to be in bed all day. And my daughters will come and be like, do you want tea? Do you need the hot water bottle? The family knows. So you need to, like, you are the boss of the house. I like to say I'm the boss of the house in that I know I'm aware of all the needs of the house and I'm delegating. I'm not taking everything on myself. The girls are involved, my husband's involved, and we work together to make it work. So, I mean, my husband, he is the leader of the home. So there's very much a level of respect and him being the man of the house, which I believe makes us a happily family. But when it comes to the economics of the house, we are like that Proverbs 31 woman. Because of her, everyone is thriving, including herself.
I think as you were speaking, I just thought, oh my God, that is so amazing for your daughters to experience what you're talking about with your menstrual cycle. And I don't, based on how you describe how they all know your rhythm, I think when they get to that phase of life, they're not going to be freaking out like how so many teenage girls might freak out, because you've
Mhm.
given them a sense of empowerment and to understand the rhythm of their body and the expectations that they have of themselves and others, that I think it's absolutely a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap up now. For me, my tagline for this podcast and life in general is that the future is the family.
Hmm.
Because whether you're looking at it anecdotally or cross-cultural studies have shown that children thrive in a stable family environment, a stable, happy environment. And so it's important to do our best to create that kind of environment for our children. When the family heals, I think the wider society will heal. Without that, it's going to be pretty problematic to achieve it. So now we talked about a lot: entrepreneurship, parenting, marriage, keeping it intimate with your husband. Is there anything else that you would want to say to women who are listening to us now that maybe you didn't get a chance to say, or you want to reiterate a particular point as it relates to how they can be the Proverbs 31 woman?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we have a lot more grace when we open our mind to making our lives environment, making our home an environment for growth and thriving. And because the woman is the emotional giver, we have a lot more connective tissues. We tend to be more intuitive and in touch with ourselves. We need to start our day grounded. We are like the thermostat in the house. We set the temperature of the house. So if we can be emotionally and mentally in tune with our worth, with who we are, what we're creating in this lifetime and giving birth to and cultivating, if we can start our days like that, the dynamics of the home will shift because we are the influencers in our home. And so I think the biggest thing does come back to you and being connected and grounded in yourself, taking that time to pray in the morning, make a plan, be a delegator, speak up, and you are the orchestrator of your space and the environment. And you do whatever you can to make that space a space for you to thrive and for everyone to thrive. And it does change the dynamics. When a house is chaotic, there's a proverb that says that a woman either builds her home or tears it down. And this is not to shift blame to us. You know, if things are chaotic, if you're in a situation where it's very trying and struggle, um, that's okay. You're learning and you could always shift and there's always a new day tomorrow. Um, and once again, because we are the influencers of the home, you have so much more power in just your energy, just emotionally how we are. So maintain, really vouch for yourself and really advocate for yourself, um, and be that and be aware of how your energy and your own mindset and confidence and spirituality does impact the home and create an environment for people to grow and flourish. And
Yeah.
that's truly what it means to be a nurturer. So that would be my biggest thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cherene. Listeners now understand why she was my business coach when I was starting out. Because I'm thinking so many people, even if they're not thinking of becoming entrepreneurs or working independently at home or whatever, but just listening to your strategies, the important thing of being grounded and remembering that our home is our ecosystem. So if
Mm.
one little part of the ecosystem is out of sync, then it's going to affect the entire ecosystem, and we have to pay some attention to it. Giving children the space to learn to be independent, not doing everything for them. I think also when we do everything for them, that's how the entitlement and the
For sure.
brattiness come about as well.
Yeah.
And, remaining grounded and asking for help and so on regarding your husband and knowing what you need to tune out of being an entrepreneur, a mother, to now being the wife. For you, it's the Zen music and the candles, and for other women, it would be different things, but just to be cognizant of
Mhm.
that. I am
Mhm.
so happy that I spoke to you about being the Proverbs 31 wife, or woman in general. I think I really need to get back into that scripture myself. And I do appreciate that you took the time out of your very, very busy schedule to really share with other women what you have done to be so successful, to be wearing so many hats and not feeling burnt out and resentful and exhausted and all of that. So thank you so much, Cherene.
My pleasure. And thank you for having me. And I really hope that this has impacted anyone. And if anyone wants to reach out, they can reach out to me on social media.
Please tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, of course, because I think it's good to see models of this and be connected to women that are doing it in a wholesome way. And I say that humbly because I know I have learned from other women who have done this. And so if anyone wants to reach out on social media at Cherene Francis on uh, mainly Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well. I'm mostly active on Instagram, but everywhere or my website, cherenefrancis.com. And yeah, once again, it's a pleasure to have this conversation with you and to even see your face after so many years.
Thank you so much, Cherene.
Yeah.
And I definitely hope other women and mothers will reach out to you. Thank you
Yes.
for joining us.
All right. Have a wonderful day.